Hello, and welcome to the NOTstalgia podcast.
A podcast where we discuss the retelling or continuation of pop culture favorites as seen through a queer and feminist lens.
My name is Eric Lefebvre.
And my name is Jessica Tricero.
And this week, we watched...
Oh my God, we did it at the same time.
I know.
The Craft.
I feel like it'll line up. We watched The Craft.
Can we read each other's minds?
We can.
Is it because we formed a coven secretly?
And it's telepathy talk. Telepathy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we watched
What's
The
your
Craft.
element?
Air.
Oh, I think I was going to say air. It's okay.
You're going to say air?
Okay.
We can both be air.
It's fine.
So we watched...
We're both airbenders.
We are both airbenders. I know I said that because of Avatar. We watched The Craft.
God. Yeah,
we know it's past Halloween, but we don't care. Happy Thanksgiving.
Mm-mm.
We watched The Craft. Actually, no, don't Happy Thanksgiving. Who gives a shit? JK, LOL. Yeah. How are you feeling about The Craft?
Okay. Somehow, I don't know how, I had never seen The Craft growing up, ever.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my first time watching it. And I had a lovely time. I do have a fuck ton to talk about because I don't have very nice things to say about the first one in particular. Did I love it? Oh, well, I guess that's the end.
I mean, yeah.
But I really, really enjoyed watching both of these, and it was kind of a treat. It was kind of great. It was great. I watched them for Halloween, and it was so cute.
It was nice. Yeah. I've seen the original before, but it's been a very long time since. I know my brother and I watched it when we were younger. It's one of those, there's so many iconic moments in it. Fairuza Balk, what an absolute slay. Nick Campbell.
We are the weirdos.
Just also,
yeah.
I mean, they should not have fucking said it in the second one. I will jump in.
Okay,
I hated that they said it again. It was so bad.
Oh my God. Okay. They said it also in the trailer, but it was a different place that they said it in the trailer. So they filmed that line a couple times, and then that was the one that they decided to use.
And that's some shittiness stuff. Cause spoiler alert, the second one, the remake's great, or the sequel, whatever, is great.
Oh yeah, it's super great.
There's levels to it that I'm like, I don't need that nostalgia shit. I don't need that unnecessary, it was great at the first one. Don't do it again as a callback or just nostalgia bit. Stop.
Yeah.
This movie's already fine. Don't do it. Whatever. They did it and it's fine.
Yeah.
Neve Campbell.
But it was at least just a little bit. And so it wasn't overpowering to where I was like, fuck this.
That's true. Yeah, I guess. But just when it happened, I was just like, boo. Super boo. That was bad. But how iconic the initial Craft as an idea and as a movie is. I mean, just they're so good. I don't know. I love it. I think The Craft is a fantastic movie. It's up it hits all of those big points for me as being a very young kid watching these scary movies like The Craft or The Faculty or these movies that are about high school being wow, those kids are so old, but they're 16 and I'm 9. I'm wow, I wonder when I'm going to be that age. I wonder if high school is going to be like this. And it was. So shout out to high school.
But not in a good way. Thanks.
Yeah. See, but for them, they're buying all of their stuff at cool stores. And I'm just going to Hot Topic to get my Invader Zim chokers. Thanks.
Oh my God. I had this great Invader Zim shirt. It was Gurr. It was so cute.
I had Gurr slippers. I bought the Gurr slippers from Hot Topic where you put your foot in his mouth.
Yeah.
Obsessed.
Did you ever buy bondage pants from Hot Topic? Because I totally did. They were purple.
No,
and
they were
I did.
I bought the trip pants off of angryyoungandpoor.com. You guys remember Angry Young and Poor or Machete MFG? Shout out to all of the websites I would buy my punk shit from. What's up?
I love that silly. We're outing ourselves on this pod right now.
I know. It was that. And I think I bought some stuff off Smart Punk or whatever.
Somehow there was a couple of record stores that you could go to. Once I could find those, right? And I was like, Mom, I'm gonna go by myself.
I'm gonna go to
which
skate
I
shop.
didn't go by myself. But it was I gotta go to Bionic to get my studs, man. Bionic Records, let's go. Yeah.
Bionic sold studs. Go off.
Dang, it was wild.
Anyway, so we are the weirdos, as it says, as it were. We watched The Craft. I'm ready to talk about these movies. How about you?
I'm so ready. I'm super ready.
GTFI.
Let's go.
TI. Get the fucking do it is what that stands for. Okay, great.
After moving to Los Angeles and encountering some unexplainable occurrences, Sarah Bailey is trying her best to fit into her new school. She finds herself being targeted by the school gross boy and simultaneously recruited by Nancy, Bonnie, and Rochelle, the resident school witches. The young women form a coven and begin to experiment with varying degrees of magic, which ultimately escalates to a love spell on said gross boy, a beauty spell, a hair loss spell, and the summoning of Manon, the great powerful spirit of power.
As Nancy becomes accustomed to her new Manon powers, she subsequently begins to abuse them by way of bullying, murder, sexual abuse, gaslighting, emotional torment, and general manipulation. Also,
wow.
Bonnie and Rochelle are super down, unlike Sarah, who's a natural witch and says, man, no thank you to all the badness. A fight happens. Nancy goes to the insane asylum. Rochelle and Bonnie still want a little bit of that sweet, sweet magic, and Sarah's cool and still has her powers. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Okay.
So, shout out to The Craft. I love The Craft. What a cool movie. A lot of stuff to talk about, obvs, but I love it. It's so fun and silly. Fairuza Balk is an absolute star. Like, way to go. I mean, all of them are. Rachel True, Neve Campbell, Robin Tunney. Tunney? Anyways, I just said that name for the first time today in this moment right now. Hi. They're all so good in this. What do I start with? Okay.
I know, that's how I feel. I'm like, okay.
Whenever in a movie it starts off with like, in a lot of these 90s movies, it's like if somebody's moving to a new town, like whenever I see a glimpse into like this family or this person's life and they're like, my life's so hard, it's always in the biggest, most expensive, lavish, interesting, beautiful, gorgeous home you've ever fucking seen in your life. And they're like, ugh, only 7 rooms. Like, shut up.
What a dump. There's a leak in the roof. Oh my God, Dad.
So silly.
What are you talking about? And then it goes like Nancy later on is living in a trailer. Like a 1-bedroom trailer with a horrible, awful mom and a horrible, awful not mom. So
yeah. I did. So I liked it as a juxtaposition of like whatever, but at the same time I'm like, who's this rich girl moving into this rich house? Like, I don't care, but at the same time I do, because I do like her character and I'm like on board. But my notes were just like, wow, okay, what a house, go off. I feel so bad for your life. Like, stop it. Not that wealth has anything to do with goodness at all. Like, obviously she has problems, obviously things are going whatever, obviously she's lonely, obviously she's sad, but there's a level of like, sweetie, there's 8 rooms.
Well, and I think that's like, so there's like a distinction in this film between a natural witch and people who have to try at it. So in that same way, like, not only is Sarah wealthy and, you know, comes from this family who's fine, who like lets her go off and do whatever, and you know, like she's drinking on the roof with some dude, and I'm just like, okay, like, but so not only is she like privileged in that sense, but she's also privileged when it comes to like her powers too. So like these other like, you know, so the other women, like they've been trying at it for a really long time, and then she comes in and is kind of a Mary Sue about it, where she's just like, oh yeah, I'm great at this, I'm great at everything I try, and I got the guy, and I did this, and I did this, you know. And so I was super down for them trying to like fix the things or get the things that these women don't have that they want. Like, and hers was love. Okay, whatever. She wants this guy to like her, right? Whereas like the other women, it was like, one was really self-conscious about her skin, even though nobody could see it, right? She felt ugly because she had those burns, right? And then the other one was a victim of racism. The other one was a victim of cyclical abuse. And so they're trying to fix these things that, or confront these things through magic, because there is no other way for them to do it, right? So they're trying to use it as a way to better themselves and their positions. Whereas she's just like, oh yeah, I want love. And in that same way, I hated that. Okay. I have so much.
I love that we just off to the races. Yes, go. I'm so into
fucking
it.
Off. Okay. I fucking hated that these women that are just trying to give themselves like a leg up, they have to create their own opportunities. They have to create their, like, you know, open their own doors. They have to, you know, figure out how they're going to get past these things. And so female ambition, right? And then it goes to their head, this power. Once the woman has, once she has no burns, then suddenly she's like, yeah, whatever, fuck everybody, right? And then, you know, once racism is suddenly fixed, it's like, oh, well, whatever, like, fuck everybody, right? Once, like, you know, the other girl, like, and so it's just like, that's fucked up. That's not at all what this is about. Like, female ambition is not about, like, abusing that power, or when women have no struggle, then they become bitches. That's not how this should be portrayed, and I was really fucking disappointed in that. And I was also super disappointed in the fact that, like, this is a really fucking terrible portrayal of female friendship. And like a lot of the stuff that I read on this was like Douglas Wick, who was the film's producer, sees this film as a metaphor for young women coming into their sexuality. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then it was like, he also said, I was very aware that witchcraft is an age-old metaphor for talking about female empowerment. And then, like, it was fucking Screen Rant, I think, that said, at the core of this film, the story is about teenage girls finding themselves and discovering their inner power. And that's not what it is at all. Like, it's when you look at it, like, the women see this new girl, Sarah, and they're kind of predatory about how they go up to her, right? They're like, you know, like,
yes.
hey, we want you. Hey, this guy's trash. Hey, this, like, okay, cool. Like, you know, look out for her. Be like, hey, that guy's trash. But also, like, they're just like, come with us. And also, we're going to go steal things. And also, we're going to do this. And also, and then this, and then this. And they only want her there to complete the coven, because Nancy fucking hates her, basically, right? And the other two are just like, oh, well, you know, you're cool. You're a weirdo like us. And then at the end, or like in the middle, when they start, you know, power starts going to their head, or their ambition is satisfied, and so now they need to get more or whatever, Sarah starts to question, and she's like, hey, maybe we shouldn't. And they're like, whatever, you're so lame, oh my god, right? And they like turn into like the antithesis of what they were fighting against, and it's like, okay, cool. And then they like start like fucking bullying her, and I really want to get into what they did, like how they bullied her with like suicide and stuff like that. I thought that was incredibly fucked up.
Oh, but, well, so that added to the severity of the horror element, like the severity at which that Nancy is magically gaslighting her and manipulating her to what she sees, and telling her that she's gonna like die by suicide that night. Like, it's all fucked up. And I mean, I remember too watching this as a kid, like those moments were particularly horrifying because of the lack of autonomy, right? It's like Nancy is taking away any ounce of personal choice in the matter. It's just all, so it's fucked up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, like, in the end, it's Sarah versus all three of them, and then ultimately her versus Nancy. But, like, Nancy ends up in the insane asylum, right? And then the other two, we see them come up later, like, at the end, and it's not just to say, like, hey, I'm sorry that this whole thing sucked, you know, like, let's be friends or whatever. It's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Also, do you want to do magic? Do you still have magic? And, like, then when she, like, kind of shows them, like, she says, no, I don't, and get the fuck out, like, even though she does have it or whatever, then they're like, oh, okay, whatever. And they fucking run away. So this movie was not about fucking friendship at all. This was about opportunism. I can fucking talk.
Well, to add to that point about that this movie is largely about opportunistic, like, ideals or like opportunism in general, the concept or the idea, going back to the structure that is a conversation of privilege, whereas Sarah is the person of privilege coming to the space, not only of looks, but of wealth, of physical attributes, of everything. She's a natural witch. She doesn't have to try. It comes completely easy to her.
She has everything.
The home is huge. She has wealth. She has literally everything. Instead of playing with the concept there and arguing that, like, because this story kind of reinforces that idea that like only the good ones are chosen or of privilege. It kind of just reinforces that like the concept of like, oh well, God chose me to do this, or like I am a chosen one.
It felt very classist.
Yeah, it felt very classist in that way, where it's like, if we're looking at it from that theme, I would wish that those who are not of privilege, say Nancy, had even a bigger turnover, because there is the sort of the act turn when her stepdad or her mom's boyfriend dies, and they inherit like some $300,000 or something wild, right? Mm-hmm. There is that moment of like, oh, this is going to be good. Like, she's had this horrible life and she's finally like coming into her power, not only personally, but coming into her power in a physical way, and in a way that's like monetary and will help her achieve things that she wants. And she's not going to be abused anymore. And she's not going to be abused. Yeah. Everything positive is coming for her in a way that she didn't expect and brings her joy. I think that's amazing. But I mean, subsequently, it just like all that goes out the window because she gets quote unquote drunk with power when right she embodies too. Manon, and it's right away. So to me, I wish for a horror film, I love that it goes kind of from 0 to 60 with her, just in chaotic form. But if we are looking at the themes of privilege and sort of the classist structures within the movie, yes, I wish that didn't happen. I wish there was more nuance to it. I wish there was more of a conversation. And also, there were levels of like with Rochelle and the sort of racist, not sort of overtly racist, what is her name? Christine Taylor, Lord Lizzie, the other girl from the team. Like, I wish they had dug into that a little bit more. And I know that like there was some level of like anti-racist action of their friends who were like, oh yeah, fuck her, she's a piece of shit, let's curse her. And I'm like, yeah, go off, like this is amazing. Yeah, but I wish that there was like, I don't know, give me more of that story. I feel like it was so short and it just kind of happened and ended, and that was it. You know what I mean? I feel like with these characters who are not of privilege or class, I wanted more. I wanted it to be more nuanced, and I wanted more of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like along that same lines too, like there's the whole like whatever you send out will come back to you ×3, like, yeah, but in like bad ways, right? So like these women are like, by magic itself, by using it, are going to be punished for what they do regardless, yes. Basically. That felt very gross to me, and it felt very gross that Sarah was the one at the end that still maintained the power. It felt very privileged. It felt very like this needs to stay with people that inherently know right from wrong.
The fact that it ended with her still having her powers, still being in a place of privilege, moving, she hasn't changed at all. Nothing about her has changed, except for the fact that these other people who didn't have what she had are still just are like in that last scene when they're just like, oh, I bet she doesn't even have power. They're conspiring about the idea of wealth and privilege, of power, in this way that feels very shaming of people without it. It feels very like, wait, why is that? Why are they doing that? Like, like this person who they came into the story with this privilege and this inherent power, and they left with the very same thing. It feels like nothing with her really changed. The only thing that she did was catalyze the change of those around her for the worse, in a way that demonizes the underprivileged. And it felt, thinking about it more, I'm like, oh, ew. I mean, obviously I love it. But yeah,
like when I was like going through my notes, I was like, because like I take lots of notes while we're going through this, and I'm just like, fuck. Like I have them separated into like just the covenant itself, and like I was talking about how like women have to steal and cheat their way to acceptance and have to create their own opportunities, but then are demonized for that because ambition is bad. And then like also like they absolve themselves of blame a lot. Like, oh, it's not our fault. He was going to hurt you. So we did this. So it's fine. Whatever. Right. And like at the end, like they're still kind of looking for a man to save them. So, like I got the impression that Manon was, a male god or spirit or whatever, right? And I got like witchy Prince Charming vibes, and I was like, I don't know if I like that, you know, again, for like this very like we're talking about like I've said it before, but like a patronizing view of female empowerment, right?
Yes.
So like then like pre-coven, before like we get into witchy stuff, like the things that I at first I was like, fuck yes, I love these guys, great, because like they're women empowering each other and exploring their power, like allowing themselves to be vulnerable and let their friends carry some of the weight of their trauma. Like when they notice her Sarah's the slits on her wrist, right? And they're like, oh, what happened? And she's like, oh, I slit my wrists. And then like they were like, I'm so sorry. And they like took a minute to like, you know, for 90s, right, to be like, wow, like, you know, that I'm sorry that you had that experience. And then like from there, move on. But then like once the whole like coven thing happened, it was just like they were all super dismissive of all the people that were dying and all the shit that they were doing. And they were like, whatever, this is all about me. Fuck everybody, which cool. Like, but also like it was just like demonized in such a way that made it just like, okay. Like, yeah. And then there were like, in the old days, like a witch that betrayed her coven would be killed. And I was just like, wait, what happened? You guys were all like so cool and were cool like being individuals, and then all of a sudden now you're I'm gonna
going back to, you said like Manon was just like a male presence. Well, I mean, man is in the name, man on, like man, like it's you're summoning like the power of Manon. Like, I mean, who knows? But it feels like it's very like surface text. But even then, it's when that spirit sort of enters the realm of the friendship of the coven, of the craft itself. That's when they start not giving a shit and sort of just being like, whatever, me. Which kind of, talking about it more, I'm like, I mean, I'm not going to give it this much
I hadn't thought about
credence,
that,
but the moment that they invite this spirit, because it is when they do like I drink of my sisters and ask to not hate those who hate me. I drink of my sisters and ask to love myself more and allow myself, you know, like they're sitting and having the picnic, and then the butterflies, and like, it's Manon, he's here, he's listening. It's after that when everything goes fucked. That's when the friendship starts falling apart. And that's when Sarah's kind of like, hey, y'all, what's up? Things are kind of getting wild. And then the love spell starts freaking out, and what's his name is just a piece of shit rapist, and like it's a whole thing. And then Nancy's just like, I'm gonna do that to him. And then they're like, why? Stop, Nancy, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? And then
like I lost my shit when she made herself look like Sarah. I was like, what the fuck though? Like, damn.
So that scene is so fucked up but cool, because the line where like, what is his name? Chris Hooker. So yes, so when like he gets off the bed after Nancy changes her form back to Nancy, he's like, what the fuck is happening? And then that's when Sarah like walks in. It's a whole thing. And then what does Chris say? He's like, you're just jealous, to Nancy. And Nancy's response is like, jealous? You don't even exist to me. I was like,
yes. That was a good line.
And her reading of it too was like fucking brutal. It was so like, she's just so manic and wild, and it's just like, I just like her saying the words, you don't even exist to me. I was like, that's brutal. That's so fucking cool. I'm so excited about it.
I love her. She did such a great job in this film.
Yeah.
But on the same note of, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I do think that largely it is when they invoke that spirit, this male energy into the coven. That's just when things fall apart. That's when everything is catalyzed into the umpteenth degree. That's when, in that moment, yes, but then Nancy takes it the step further when they're on the beach, right? So they're in the woods. They do the first time. They get the power. Then they're at the beach because they're doing it. Well, I forget why they're doing it again. They're doing it more. Then that's when like they all wake up and Nancy's like walking on water back to them, and she's like, I am a nun and he is me. And you're like, okay, queen, let's go home. And she's like, no, let me go show you all my dead sharks. And they're like, what? And then they walk over there and she's like,
they're so beautiful.
Aren't they beautiful? And we're just like, okay, cool, go off, Nancy, I guess. But it's all largely because of Manon and that energy that enters not only these individual people, but the friendship as a coven, as a craft of togetherness. That's when it's torn apart, because there is that kind of beautiful moment at the end of the first act into the second act when they're hanging out and doing cool stuff, and they're doing light as a feather, stiff as a board. We're having fun. We're goofing. We're like sleepover vibes. Like we're chilling. Like we're buddies. We're hanging out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's only interrupted by Manon, a man.
Right. Yeah. So like the only way to fix their problems is through a man who then also destroys their lives, who gives them everything back times 3. Wow. Yep.
They think
true.
they think they need the power of the patriarchy, when in fact the power of the patriarchy is what will destroy them.
Yeah. I like that.
Maybe.
Also in the
I don't
next
know.
Movie. Also,
yeah, because it's way more overt in the next one, but in this one I don't know if that's it. Is
I
that
don't think they meant to do that. I think this was Douglas Wick like straight up said this is a metaphor about women coming into their sexuality. Yeah. What the fuck are you even talking about? Like,
that's the most
what
boring
the fuck?
That's the most boring straight cis male thing I've ever heard in my life. Just like,
also,
you're gonna
write this
movie?
for me?
Yeah.
So I can figure out my sexuality, dude. Like,
you know what is these girls coming into their sexuality? The moment that Fairuza Balk wears both a spiked choker and a candy necklace.
Yes.
She's wearing both at the same time, and I'm like, that is sick. That is queer canon. I'm so sorry, but that is like exactly everything for me. It's so good. I'm so
totally
obsessed.
Crushing.
I'm just obsessed with the choice. Like spiky choker, black leather metal spikes, and a candy necklace. I'm like, yes. Oh my God, yes. Of course.
I have a note here. I'm going to need all of these looks right now.
Yeah,
like,
same.
Deposited into my closet, please and thank you.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I want to look like that. I want to wear 17 rosary necklaces and a tank top with some combat boots. I want to look like I just got out of Catholic school and I'm going to a Nirvana concert. I'm ready.
I want to go back to Chris as the love interest because I mostly want to talk about, we know that he's an asshole. We know that he's super shitty. I fucking hated that he was super pissed that she wouldn't go to his house and bone him. And then like all of that. I hated all of that. But also I fucking hated that at the, like somewhere towards the end, Sarah says that he was really a good guy underneath it all. Did you catch that line?
I did not. That's gross. And also Sarah's wrong. Unfortunately, in this case, Sarah is incorrect.
In a lot of these types of films that are supposed to be female empowerment and putting men down or everything, there's always like a line that's slipped in there that's like, you know, where the woman apologizes, like, you know, like, oh, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. Or where there's like a line that's like, oh, but he was really good underneath, you know? And it's like, what the fuck do you mean he was good underneath? There was nothing. Also, there was hella apologizing in this on, like, they're like, oh yeah, this is about female empowerment. But there was like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
and I'm like,
well, like you said, it's like writing a movie about the idea that it's not this woman's fault. And then it's like, that's the whole crux of the movie. And then at the end, her being like, quietly, JK, it's my fault. I'm so sorry. Like, like a throwaway
line. So like the writer is like, this isn't about me.
Yeah.
You know, it sucked. I hated that line. It bugged me so bad.
Going back to like them being friends, I mean, those are my favorite parts of the movie, is them being friends and like the whole "we are the weirdos, mister," them getting off the bus and going into the, like, just like having an adventure with your friends, allowing yourself to just kind of like exist without much pressure. And I mean, also there's a level of just like sort of lackadaisical day to day that a lot of, I feel like this is rude to say, that a lot of like young people, like, you don't have any problems. That's not true. Young people have plenty of shit, but there's a level of like having that freedom to just kind of like be whimsical and explore in ways that I feel like as you get older, you lose, right? So watching them go on that adventure where they're like on the bus and those little kids are staring at them and she's just like staring back. I'm like, oh my God, this is such a 16-year-old adventure. And then the bus driver saying something and you saying something snarky back. I mean, like, and I'm like, yes, this is so good. And then drinking wine in the woods. I was like, yep, same.
Yeah.
So did I.
All of that was my favorite. Like that kind of like first-ish act was like just so great. I was like, I'm fucking on board. I love this. This is so great. And then like, just, like it just kind of degraded from there. And I just can't get that quote out of my mind. I'm like, what are you trying to say about female sexuality? Like, what are you?
But that part of me thinks that answer was a response. Like, maybe he just didn't see the movie. Like, maybe he wasn't paying attention. I was just like, oh, there's 4 girls in their teens. Yeah, it's about female friendship. Because it's such a surface level. I'm not watching this. What does the poster look like? 4 friends?
Well, it almost
female
didn't
friendship.
get made.
Or female
like
sexuality.
This, this almost wasn't released because a bunch of movies for adults were coming out and people were like, no, pass. And so then they were like, oh yeah, but we can sell this to teenage girls. And they're like, oh, okay, whatever. But then what did it was the shot of them walking up and looking fucking badass and empowered. And then they were like, okay, yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we'll put this shit out. But like, it was there specifically, like this was engineered to be empowering, but it wasn't empowering at all. Like it was empowering. Okay. The ending was not empowering. It was great to see these women get all of this and to do all of that. But like the movie did not do justice to the empowerment that they were trying to create.
Yes, exactly. So there are levels of like literal within the movie, literal empowerment by way of Manon, right? Like not even just like emotional empowerment. I'm feeling confident. It's like literal. I'm given powers by this other spirit. So there's like these levels of taking justice into your own hands with that empowerment, with this newfound autonomy, and using it to sort of deal the justice that you don't see dealt in the world when you are the victim of circumstance or bullying or abuse or whatever. You want to be in charge of that. But then in the way of saying like, yes, that's beautiful and that's good. Like I love that. I love seeing that strength. I love seeing the strength of character, the strength of person, like to be able to turn that situation and say, I'm now in charge. I'm doing this and I am confident in doing that. But then amplifying each one of those individual storylines into a way that makes that person seem bad or big air quotes crazy or psychotic or disgusting or abusive. Like that's when it does the disservice to the point that it's trying to make about empowerment. When you're saying, because you're essentially saying giving people, in this case women, too much power is bad. Sort of subtextually, that's what you're trying to argue within the story. So in the moments when they're like doling out justice to these bad people, I'm like, yeah. And then we scoot forward to them abusing that power and being bad. It's like, okay, so now you're just saying that we shouldn't give voices to women. Cool. Got it.
Yeah, it's like as soon as they have the resources and the means, it's like, oh, well, fuck them. They're super bad now. And also they never cared about, like, there was actually no sisterhood. There was no sort of like bonding. And I was just like, I hate you.
Yeah, it was a really gross turn. I mean, so contextually it was gross and thematically agreed it was gross. Cinematically, I loved it because I mean it sort of like rapidly accelerates the plot into this like bizarre landscape of nightmare and of like what is good and bad and like it makes these who we thought were good bad. Like it amplifies it to the point where it needs to go to be this like sort of fun horror movie or this fun like thriller. Because without it wouldn't have been that scary. I like the scary aspects, but again, contextually, writing wise, what it's trying to say under the surface is not good. But
well, and I think that like having a woman on the writing team, right, or something
which
like that,
the next
would
one
have amplified
does
this,
so well
which
with.
Exactly, and so that's what like I feel like this was a great baseline and you could see what happened and you could see, okay, cool, like how can we do this better? And I feel like in almost every way, the next one just elevated this and was like, oh, we see this. And so they fixed a lot of that type of problematic writing. And, you know, like, because like if dudes are writing this, and especially in like the 1990s, they don't know what female friendship is, you know, and what we see? What do they see on TV? And it's like, this is like the era of like the battle of the sexes was like this big game and all this other stuff, right? So it's just like, fuck this. But like, so of course, this is what he thinks it looks like. Of course.
Yes. It really did a disservice to the idea that it was trying to lift up. It did such a bad job in that way. But I'm looking down here. I'm reading. What does it say? Yeah, so it does say that this movie was iconic, even apart from all of that badness. There are so many levels to this movie that are just good, so good, and so fun, and just like great movie all around. But what was it there? I wrote a bunch of quotes. Oh, when Fairuza Balk, when Nancy leaves the room when they're trying to do magic, this is like the first time we're getting a glimpse of like her being mad or like being upset in some regard that like everyone else is getting their power, but she's like not coming into hers. Like she's not getting her day. She's not getting her due diligence, sort of. That's when, so she leaves, and then Rochelle's like, her spell's not working. I think she said she didn't want to be white trash anymore. And I'm like, you're white, honey, just deal with it. I was like, it's such a fantastic line where she's like, I think she just doesn't want to be white trash anymore. And I'm just like, girl, you're white. What do you want? That's just the way it's going to be. It's just a great line. Oh my God. Christine Taylor was an absolute trash monster villain in this. Laura, Rochelle's swim or diving teammate,
yes,
was an absolute. As a child, like none of that resonated. Like even the words she used didn't resonate in any particular way because I was just so unfamiliar. But rewatching this, I was like, "Fuck this!" Like when her hair's and then later when she's like, Rochelle's feeling bad when she keeps seeing that her hair keeps falling out and she's feeling bad. I'm like, no, why are you feeling bad? Like, why are you writing into this movie that like she should feel bad about this? Like, you wrote this. Do you see what she said earlier? Did you see what she's done? What she continues to do and perpetuates and is allowed to continue to do in this white society?
And like, enabled by all of the professors. Because all of the shitty behavior is like just kind of like, oh, shut up, you know, like be quiet the whole fucking time. And I'm like, really? Truly. And so that to me, I was just like, when there's this scene of like her, she's horrified by what she's done. I'm like, absolutely the fuck not. Honestly, when she stands up to leave, you should trip her on the way out too. Fuck her. Like, fuck her twice. She's such a piece of shit. Like, I don't feel bad. I'm happy she's sad. I'm happy she feels like shit. She should feel like shit. And she should know it's because she's a piece of shit racist. Like, that's just, but that was an element of the story that I was like bummed out that they wrote in that Rochelle starts to feel bad. I'm like, I mean, again, whatever, it's her own feelings and she can feel however she wants to. But from an outsider's perspective on this story, fuck her totally. Rochelle should have done more, threefold or whatever. Like she should have done 1,000,000 times worse, but whatever. Lizzie, the character Lizzie played by Christine Taylor, shout out, you suck. She deserved way worse. So they, this film also like hired a wicked daddy to like give them an accurate representation of what witchcraft is and what Wicca is. So they like, and I thought that was like a really interesting, not daddy, it wasn't a wicked daddy, it was a Wicca priest, whatever. But, but like they ended up like, cause they wanted to get it as close to the real thing as possible. And so like he, in an interview that the consultant had with it, he said that most of his suggestions were taken. So that was cool, I thought, because like I feel like so often, like especially when dealing with like witchcraft or like any religion other than like Christianity, like we get like these really caricaturized versions of what they're supposed to be. So I liked that they went that extra mile. And also Nancy in real life is a Wiccan. So she bought and owned a Wicca shop in LA for like years. I think she sold it in like 2001 or whatever. But she was a practicing Wiccan and still is, from what I read.
Okay.
So I thought that was really cool.
Can you imagine being a teen watching The Craft and then being like, do you guys want to go to Fairuza Balk's Wiccan shop?
Oh my
And then
God.
getting to go there and her being there and you buying like, say, I don't know, a Book of the Dead from Fairuza Balk in her Wiccan shop.
Or what if you like steal it because
dream.
she stole it in The Craft and then she couldn't get mad at you because, okay, if you and me were in high school in LA in the 90s, we absolutely would have fucking done that, and it would have been with the candy choker and the dog collar and the whole thing.
Obsessed.
It would have been the best fucking day of our lives.
Yeah. I mean, true to form though, I would have thought I was looking like hella sick, but what I would have really been wearing was a polo, some Junko jeans, and then like the 3-level spiky armband bracelet that's like a rocker watch or whatever, but without the watch. And I would have been looking hella fucking sick, and I would have been like, yeah, I belong here.
I would have been in my bondage pants and my the haircut where it's like long in the front and then short in the back and then the thing, and I totally had that, and I would have had those pants and my Doc Martens that were like not the right ones, they were like the knockoff ones.
Oh, love.
Yeah and like just a bunch of safety pins everywhere for no reason. It would have been so cute.
We would have walked.
She got a lot of those people and it was like probably one of the sweetest things that's ever happened in her life. We
walk in there and we pretend not to see her, and then we just like walk up to the counter and we're like, so yeah, do you like listen to The Offspring or like what? Or like, have you heard of them? Oh, okay.
Have you heard of The Cure?
I'm just like wondering. Anyway, do you have incense?
Ooh, also super gross, super gross. Most of like the bugs and reptiles and rats and stuff were hella real. They were fucking real.
That's great. I was wondering that because that scene when it's like making her hallucinate all like the scorpions and the maggots and the snakes and the spiders, I was just like, this looks fucking wild. So they were all real.
Yeah. And like, I could not, if like, I would have loved, okay, if I ever did acting or whatever and like actually pursued that like I wanted to, and I was offered this role, I'd be like, fuck yeah. But I would need a body double for all of those scenes, please, because I do not do bugs or spiders or like but all of those fucking
part of that too. I'm like, oh yeah, channel this like literal actual fear and just play it. Like good for her. I'm sure she was like actually scared. So in these moments where she looks scared, I'm like, I bet she was really scared.
I bet she was. Yeah,
I wouldn't be acting. I would be like, give me the fuck away from this. I'm trying to leave.
I'd just be terrified.
Yeah, it's so gross and scary.
What else do we have to say? I don't know. Like I had practically no notes on anybody except for like Nancy and the Coven themselves and Rochelle. Like there wasn't really a lot to Sarah. I feel like Sarah and Lily in the next one, who plays the natural witch, I feel like they were purposely made as like kind of like a slate, like that, like kind of like a blank, boring slate, so you could project yourself onto them. And that worked really well for me in the second one in the end. Yeah.
Should we hop into the next one?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the next one.
Okay, cool. After moving to a new town with her mom and encountering some unexplainable occurrences, Lily Schechner is trying her best to fit into her new school. She finds herself being targeted by the school gross boy and is simultaneously recruited by Tabby, Lourdes, and Frankie, the resident school witches. The young women form a coven and begin to experiment with varying degrees of magic, which ultimately escalates to a woke spell on the sad jerk who, it turns out, has hella trauma and really needs a good friend.
Meanwhile, daddy of the house, Adam Harrison, is indoctrinating vulnerable young men to his gross, toxic, hella problematic patriarchal cult. Oh no, what's this? Mom's new boyfriend, Adam, was a secret warlock trying to steal her daughter's powers. Why, you ask? There's a prophecy and she's really the daughter of Nancy from the first movie? What the fuck? Anyways, Daddy's dead thanks to female friendship. Shout out to my witches. And Lily finds her real mom and scene. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Blessed be, y'all.
Blessed be.
Okay. So off the bat, I do want to say I absolutely love this remake. Retelling,
it's
sequel.
Continuation.
It's a continuation. Well, yeah. I will argue that it's both because
it's both.
It's both, right? Because it follows the same tropes as the first one. Like plot-wise, it's nearly identical in the way that it does. They change some things, obviously, and then they add that element of like, oh, Nancy's her mom. What? So then it's like,
I was so fucking stoked. So fucking stoked.
The only thing I wasn't stoked about that is why did they wait until the last 5 seconds of the movie to bring Fairuza Balk back? Like, Queen.
Because they want a sequel. They were just talking about a sequel the other day.
Ugh, and it bums me out.
And I'm fucking here for it.
Because I'm like, you could have given us more. Bring her into her dreams.
I know.
Why am I having dreams about this strange person? It's Fairuza Balk. Give me some screams in a dream. That's it.
I needed 30 more minutes of this movie because I feel like, so I loved this movie and I loved a lot of the stuff they were trying to do. And especially right now, like, you know, with everything that's happening with this patriarchal ass, whatever, like, just seeing like these young women kick fucking ass, like, and the villain being patriarchy itself was just like,
yeah.
It was cheesy. I was fucking here for it. I was here for all those Avatar Airbender moves. I was here for so much of this. But yeah, I wanted a little bit more on the cult. I wanted a little bit more, like depth on the other characters besides, like, cause this is an incredibly Lily heavy film. But yeah, or like go into, like you said, like she's having dreams. There's like a mention of a prophecy and I was like, what is this prophecy? What the fuck? And when Adam turned from mom to Adam to whatever, I was like, oh no, this is Nancy. Nancy got out and Nancy is shape-shifting and doing the thing because he's all about snakes and shit. And I was like, fucking this is it. But I still loved how Nancy is in it. And I need more.
So I literally have like 4 different moments in my notes when I was watching it where I was like, oh my God, is this Fairuza Balk? Is she coming back right now? Is she about to show up? Am I about to see her? And then she doesn't. And I'm like, okay, next time. And then it's like the moment when it's like the mom, but it's like Manon. And I was like, oh my God, that's Fairuza Balk. Oh my God, this is where she's introduced.
And then the transformation looks like her for a second.
It does. And then it's not her. And then I'm like, oh. Okay. And then by the time it's like the movie's over, she's like, I want to see my mom, please. And I'm like, okay, now I guess she's back. Whatever. I was really excited. I still love her and I'm really pumped. I will say, going into this movie, I went through a little bit of a journey at the beginning. So there's like them in the car driving. Oh my God, this is my song. It's Alanis Morissette. Okay, 90s throwback. We get it. It's a remake. That already was, I was just kind of like, this is fine. I don't know how I feel about this. The way the mom says all the feels kind of threw me off too. She's like, oh, it's giving me all the feels. I was just kind of like, I don't know about this. I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous about what's happening. Mom. No, but the thing is, like, to me, it didn't feel like her saying that didn't feel like of the world. But again, I didn't know this world. But to me, for some reason, her saying that, I was like, that felt wrong. And I was like, I don't know if it's right. I don't know what it is. But I was like, still on board. Cool. And then
it always feels weird when like parents say that though. Like if they try to say like, oh, and so like to me it felt awkward in the same way that when like a parent says it, I'm like, oh God.
No, so, in that same way where I was like, maybe that was what I was supposed to feel. I don't know. And then there's like, I liked when Dave Duchovny showed up and like he was already a piece of shit bad guy. Like he really bad vibes the whole time. And I was like, he's going to be the villain. I love it. He's already gross. Oh, and what does he stand for? He sells books for male empowerment and masculinity. I'm like, oh my God, perfect. You're tying the badness to masculinity. This is going to go off. But even then, I was like, I really hope this worked. Like, I didn't want a weird script to kind of negate any sort of goodness or triumph of what the story is trying to say. So I was like, still real hesitant. And then when she throws, what's his name? Timmy
Timmy, yeah.
When she throws Timmy, he like tries to touch her and then she like blasts him. I was like, done. I'm on board. Let's do it. Like, I'm so here. And then later they're like having a conversation and it's like they're trying to like beg her to come in and one of them says like, don't judge. She's a Twilight stan. I'm just like, oh my God.
I was like, yes.
I'm like, if that would have happened earlier in the movie, I would have been like, I don't know about this. But the fact that everything else happened and then we're getting this kind of like script reading, I was like, oh yeah. Don't judge. She's a Twilight stan. I'm like, shut up. Yes, I'm so on board. Okay. And then another, I know I'm like getting ahead of myself. Another line reading when they break into Timmy's house to cast a spell on the pillow. And then he shows up at the house and they have to like get out. It's like, we're on the second floor. It's like, yeah, we're going to have to jump. And then Lily yeah. says, can't you guys just make us fly or something? And then Frankie's just like, bitch, no. like
yes.
What? Like, yeah, we're witches, but like, what? It's just such a funny moment, and I'm so obsessed with the line reading.
Love them.
There were these really fun, very like of the present. Like these characters felt very real. A lot of that like sort of like fun like language like oh my God, pulls up my suspenders, that youth language, whatever, so stupid, but you know what it like, I feel so old. Oh my God, I'm only 28, I swear. A lot of that really worked with these characters in a way that felt real and earnest, like that moment when she's like, can't you just make us fly? Like, that's an honest question. We're witches. Is that something? I've seen movies. And then she's like, bitch, no, jump. Like, I'm not doing that. We can't do that yet. She's like, oh wait, shit, yeah. I was like, that's so funny.
I loved that. I loved like the interactions. I loved how like they like in all of the ways I feel like they felt like a real group and real friends and just real people. So like, and I feel like they like because of that, like they didn't have to do as much work as other films have to do to like earn moments.
Yeah.
So like, for instance, like she has the period. That's like everybody like that was one of my worst nightmares in school, right? Yeah. And then fucking on her first day has to run out and they're like, hey, whatever, it's fine. Here, I don't know if these are going to fit you, but it's cool. Also, fuck them. Like, and then they like turn that into like, we're celebrating you because of your, like, you become a woman and all this other stuff, right? So they like the way that they turn that, and then like they also are able to have like those super fun moments, like you said, and then like go into like deep things where like I love that one of the characters was trans and it was just like, I don't have to worry about that. And, you know, like, and they just like slip things in there. Yeah. And I was just like, I love that we don't have to have this big, like, this is like, and I'm struggling or whatever. Like, I love that she was just there and she exists and she's accepted and she's loved. And I love that. I love so much of, I love that.
Yeah. Well, cause that's one of the things though, is like, I feel like a lot of people would be like, oh, there was just too much happening. It's like, no, that's how you write an inclusive story. And on top of that, the story's largely not about her. So like, it doesn't have to necessarily be a story about transness or a story about gender in general. But the fact that she was there was fucking awesome. And also everything that we talk about like casting people for roles, like the actor herself, she's trans. Like, yes. Like, this is exactly what you do. And the way it was written was perfect. Her transness existed. It's a part of the conversation, but not in a way that is propifying.
Where that's her whole character.
That's not the whole character. It's also not propifying her transness or her gender. It's also not, tokenizing it in any particular way. It just, I mean, that's who she is. It's part of her identity. And I think that it was really well done. I also just loved her character, although I feel like halfway through the movie, she got less and less lines, which I was a little like, wait, no. Lord's come back.
Everybody except Lily. Yeah.
Yes, which was
that sucked
to some degree fine, because I get that like she's the outlier and she's kind of what we're following the story about. But to add to what you were saying about like how this movie really flowed well and allowed itself to develop a friendship, and the friendship was kind of the basis in a more believable way than the first one was. We get this like clock stoppers montage of them stopping time in the cafeteria, and then them at a sleepover, and then them on like a trip, and then them doing this and then doing that. And it's like, maybe a month's passed, who knows, but they've become friends. They're more comfortable with each other now than they've ever been, than we've ever seen them. They're friends. I believe it. This montage just showed me, and now I'm on board and I'm invested. And so later too, like when there is a rift in the friendship and they have to kind of like there's the initial like binding or whatever. I liked how in this one it was a conversation about consent. Like yes. So where the last one was just kind of like, oh, we're just going to go bad. We're going to do bad stuff. This was talking about the badness of a non-consensual act. And so with her adding they were like, oh, well, you added a love spell and that's why he's dead. So he had double spelled and he got messed up and that's the whole thing. And they're like, we don't like, that's fucked up. But then on top of that, for Tabby to then, as soon as that conversation's over, the other three, after Lily's gone and has been sort of like, she's not a part of the group anymore, they're having a conversation and Tabby says, well, are we any better than her? Like, we also put a curse on somebody and it was not consensual and they did not know about it. So what she did is no better than what we did. And so having an earnest conversation about intent, about consent, about what that means, and then them choosing to bind themselves, I was like, this movie,
I loved that.
Go into it. Yeah, no, it felt more earnest. It felt more real. It just also felt like they were talking about real, tangible things and actual issues, and not just like, I'm gonna be mean. And you're just like, okay, cool. Not to say that the first one did that, but it did. But the first one's great. But this one did it in a much more concise way. It felt like, and I loved those elements of it.
I mean, these women can, like, they are arguably significantly more powerful than the women in the first film, right? Yeah. They are able to literally stop time and to fly and to do all this other stuff, right? And, like, the way that they explore that together and the way that they use that together, and then that they also hold themselves accountable and like don't excuse themselves. They like, because in the first one they made excuses for like, well, he was gonna hurt you, so I had to, and like in this one they're like, I mean, regardless of what was happening, this was not consensual, and we're not better, and I think we need to take a break. They were like, instead of just being like, I'm not talking to you anymore or whatever, like they were actually like having this conversation and saying this and saying like, if we're not going to use this responsibly, we shouldn't be using it at all, so exactly. They didn't have to have, I loved that the big bad or, like that the conflict didn't necessarily come from women hating other women, but it came from this feels like it's coming from such a deeper place, and such a deeper place in friendship too, like where you're able to be critical of you and your friends and of your friendships. And that's actually a part of being a good friend, So I really, really, really loved that. And part of the reason I think they were more powerful right from the beginning was because they were already empowered, right? Just as women. They, they weren't looking to like fix themselves. They were just like, okay, look, I have this, whatever, it's fine. This is who I am. So they accepted themselves and were empowered in a different sort of way that I think has come from, like, Craft 1990s is very like, that is exactly how I felt, or like not exactly how I felt, but like that's what it felt like to be a woman in high school. Whereas like here, it's like there's so much more that we're able to see and consume and to be empowered by. And there's like so many more resources for like language and how to use it. And so like I was just really happy to see that change, and, and to see that they weren't ever shitty to each other, like that was never a thing. They never went low, and they used their powers to also help other people, like, help LGBTQ people that were being bullied to, like, and then they were like, oh, cool to shame other girls. Fuck that. Like,
all the shit with Timmy I thought was really interesting. Like, on top of having a discussion about like trans female identity, they're also having a conversation about bi erasure, which I was like, this movie's really getting into everything. This is amazing. Like, in not in a way that's like, it's
trivial.
It's not trivial. It's like very clear and concise, and it's also not the main point It's just a small part of like, I liked that. Like Timmy, also the whole woke Timmy thing was so funny. I thought that was so cute. I was just like,
I love that.
Good. I love this. Oh yeah. That party scene was so funny when it's like, oh my God, Princess Nokia. I was like, this is so silly. I'm so into this very fun, silly thing. Yeah. And so like him being like, oh, I fooled around with Isaiah. And they're like, what? And he's like, yeah. And then to go into, and then people just assume I'm gay. And he's like, but that's not it. He's like, I like girls too. And that's part of it. It's like, I can't be both. I have to be one thing in the eyes of all of these people. And that's why like Isaiah's like ignoring me. And that's why I'm like really struggling with this. And he's like, I'm so happy that I can say this, but it's like literally talking about how bi people are constantly being erased because either they're in a gay presenting relationship, so they are considered gay, or they're in a heteronormative looking relationship, so they're straight. Like there's never nuance to be queer in and of itself. It's only one or the other. And I like how, yeah, him coming out, part of the struggle is being like, I don't fit into either one completely. I'm both, but people don't get that, which is literally bi erasure. You know?
Yeah.
So cool. I loved it. Obsessed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's a story that we don't get a lot of, or if we do get it, then it feels cheap, but they did this in such a way where it's like it carried the weight that it needed to without being the entire story.
Yeah.
The writing for this is just, I thought it was really phenomenal in the ways that they chose to, like, the humor wasn't punching down, and like they were just so thoughtful about how they wrote this. Talking
about the writing specifically, that one moment when they're walking through the cafeteria and then Timmy has to go with somebody else and he's like, I'll catch you guys later, stops and corrects him, says girls, and then he says women, and then he says women with an X to be as inclusive as possible to this group of people. It was a comedic moment. It was comedic beat. It was supposed to be funny and the delivery was good too, but it wasn't like punching down and being like, it wasn't a joke about trans people. It wasn't a joke about women in general being bad. You know what I mean? It was funny because he's under this spell to be quote unquote woke, as they say. And in this moment, he's trying to be the most inclusive. So that's the joke of him. The humor comes from him trying to be good. And it just, I don't know, it felt earnest and fun and funny in a way that was like cool, but also like not, it didn't feel like it was trying so hard to be the thing. It just was the thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like patronizing.
It didn't feel patronizing.
Me, like, which like a joke like that is so hard to pull off and so hard to pull off in the right way, where if this was in any other movie or like 90% of other films, it would have been super patronizing and super gross and I would have hated it. But it was so earnest.
It has everything to do with intent. And so already we're getting this character who he is intentional. He is earnest. I mean, obviously he's under a spell, but everything that he's talking about, he's like opening up about his deceased mother. He's talking about being vulnerable and being emotional in a way that like a lot of men in general, cis men in general, don't do, or like masculinity doesn't allow men to do. And so that already we're like getting this really earnest side. So then to have that character say these lines that would in any other person's mouth feel patronizing or feel belittling in some way, it just punches the joke up instead of down, and it makes it feel of the world in a way that's not tacky, right? Like it feels good. It feels earnest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like then like, because at first when I first met this character, I was like, fuck this dude forever, fuck all of this. And then like, you know, just having like that really real moment where like you get down, like, because like, and then it's like, oh, he's woke now. And I was like, okay, whatever, like I don't care. Like, you know, I'm like, sure, this is funny, all right, fine. But then once he like starts to open up and like really, and you know, I love that they did that with me too, like because like so often we're so ready to pass judgment on people. And so, like, you know, for their actions and like, yes, absolutely. But also like you never know what's happening behind closed doors and, or, you know, what's going on in their head or how they are not allowed to exist within their own world. And so patriarchy being the ultimate bad guy in this made so much sense for him, like, you know, especially with his character where, you know, he was a bully and being an asshole and like saying all of these things. So he wouldn't be questioned or wouldn't be found out or, you know, because it was actually dangerous for him. And so like, and in the end, once he does, like, even though the dad doesn't, or Adam doesn't find out, or like he's still killed by toxic masculinity. And so because he's not able to be himself, he just has to, I'm sure he like hated himself for all of the things that he did. Yeah.
And the moment that he reveals who he is, which is things that the patriarchy and general cisgendered heteronormative identity of what man and masculine mean, as soon as his identity conflicts with what is expected of him as a cis man, he's killed. And that's right. The point, right? Like he comes out as bi, he's introspective, he's emotional, he's vulnerable, he's consensual, he's all of these things in all of these ways that it might see it's everything that what we're expect. Like I feel like I'm stumbling over my words. He comes out as queer and is killed for it by the patriarchy, by heteronormativity at large. And that is such an intentional thing in this movie that I loved. And it was so clear too. It's like the day after he's like out and he's like, you know what? A weight's been lifted off my shoulders. And that's like a big point of it. A weight's been lifted off my shoulders. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling good. I'm queer and I'm into it. Let me live my life. Like, yes, go and live that life. And then the next day they're like, he's dead. And it's like, what do you mean? And then I wrote in my notes, I was like, Timmy died. What the fuck? And then immediately after I was like, oh, they killed him. X-Files guy killed him. The patriarchy killed him. Burn it down. Burn it all down. Burn the house down. Go do it.
Yeah,
Get away. Get out. I know he did it. That's exactly what's happening. Yeah. I just loved it. I loved it. I loved all of that.
I also, like, when I was thinking more about this character, because I really did love this character, it was really interesting to me, like, so as soon as they cast the spell on him, right, it's not like he gained any extra knowledge or anything. What I thought was really interesting is that he already had all of this knowledge and knew all of it. He knew about consent and he knew what was patronizing and what's the correct terms to use. And he knew that he had to stand up for other people. And so like all of the stuff that he's talking about, all of the stuff that he does, he was always capable of. And like, so that was always there. He was literally just suppressed by the patriarchy. Like, this was just such a good character.
To take it a step further, it also just reflects the idea of performative toxic masculinity, where a character who knows better and otherwise is knowledgeable and understanding of intersectionality, of all of these things that he claims to not know, this is all a performance. It's all an act. When given this spell, it's very clear that all of these things existed within him. He carried these things. But the the toxic masculine aspects of it were performative. I mean, that's what the narrative is trying to portray in this way. And I think that that's fucking cool. That's brilliant. That's fucking sick. Like, yeah, that shit is a performance.
Such fucking good writing.
Yeah.
It's such good writing.
Yeah. I was so like, the more I thought about it too, as I watched it, the more I was just like, yeah, fucking yeah. Okay. You know what? One of the other spots that I thought Fairuza Balk was going to show back up, I thought Nancy was going to just like pop back out. When Lily was having one of her nightmares and then she woke up and she like goes like first big no, don't stand up in the middle of the night in a dark room and go stare at a dark corner. Because to me it also reminded me of Hereditary. I threw the pillow
over my face. I could not watch.
It reminded me of Hereditary when like he's sleeping and he like opens his eyes and then there's like super dimly lit and you're getting these like figures and it's like absolutely terrifying, like bone chillingly fucked up. And this one less so, obviously, but Hereditary is so good to go watch it. But then she's looking into the corner, and I thought Nancy was just gonna. I thought she was gonna say like, so if there's a moment for a fucking nostalgic callback line, it would have been Nancy in the corner in the dark, whispering to herself, I bind you, Nancy. I bind you, Nancy. I bind you, Nancy.
Oh.
If she was just there and you couldn't see her, but you heard Fairuza Balk's voice saying, I bind you, Nancy, to her own name. And then that's when she appears. And that's what I thought that was going to happen. And in my head, I was like, perfect movie. Done. Send it. Print, picture, perfect. It's perfect. Like, they did it. They did exactly what I thought was like, this is perfect. We love stan culture. On board. Oh my God. So scary. Like, but they didn't, and that's fine and whatever. I really want another sequel. But in that moment, I remember thinking like, fuck, this is exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be the callback line. She's going to pop out. It's going to be fucking scary and so sick. No, but instead they did the, we are the weirdos, Mr. Oh, okay. You know what? I am going to get into that scene only because if we're talking about a movie that is like queer canon and queer adjacent, like this movie is, in the moment when Bad Daddy X-Files Duchovny knocks all the girls out, and then he's like, Lily, I'm stealing your power. I'm a strong man, patriarchy and order and women are bad. That whole thing in the woods. When that's happening, the girls start saying they're like, we call the mother of the North when we call the mothers of the South. Like they start doing that to gain the power to like collectively call upon strength to then defeat him, quietly doing their own thing. And I like they whisper it. And so like they know what's happening. And then he says, Dave Duchovny tells Lily, you don't belong here, but what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? And then it's her turn. And she says, West. Now,
hell yeah,
which yes. I loved, but at the same time, Go West is a famous Village People song that is so gay about moving to the West and living your gay life and being a fucking gay person, living your queer fantasy out. It was one of their 3 hits, including YMCA and In the Navy. Go West is a famous gay song. So the fact that it felt very much like he volleyed a Village People quote to her, and she said, "What? Where are you gonna go? West. Go west."
And hopefully the next one she'll just be bi or be a lesbian, and she'll be fucking beautiful and there because absolutely. I mean,
for a movie that is so queer in this way, I'm really hoping that's intentional, because it does. Like, there's no way that's not. Like, come on.
Yeah.
That's like the Village People, iconic gay band with such intent.
There was so much intent in this whole thing that like they know.
So shout out Village People. Know. What a fun little moment. I was like, wow, okay. But then that was also the same scene where like the worst callback line of all time was thrown in there, where they, for no reason, they're talking about something else. And then Dave Duchovny's like, you guys shouldn't be out here. Also, guys, when he said that was so loaded, I loved it. You guys shouldn't be out here. There's a lot of weirdos who lurk in these woods. And I'm like, nope. How dare you? That was the worst serve.
Yeah, that was
the worst layup. Then Tabby says, we are the weirdos, mister. And I'm like, nope, unearned. You didn't get there. This is the worst setup. This is the worst layup. We're only doing it for that reason. And I know that that's why we're doing it. And I get it. However, unearned, bad. In a movie that's otherwise fantastic and so many good things, as soon as that happened, I'm like, boo, boo, boo. Terrible.
I feel like that was a moment like where like the producer or like some executive was like, we have to have the thing. We have to have that thing. You got to do it. You got to do the callback. You got to do the thing, right?
Yeah.
Because all of these remakes and continuations love doing that. So I think I kind of want to believe that it was thrown there just like, you know, and in these moments, because whenever there is a callback that's out of place or that is unearned or is just kind of boring, you can tell, because like they could write it in a better way. They could do something, but like I feel like it's just intentional. So it's like, this wasn't me, you know?
Yeah, it's like watching any one of those Hulk movies, and then one character's like, Hulk, what time is it? And then they like close up and he's like, it's clobbering time. You're like, oh, okay, cool, got it, thanks, done. Yeah. Or is that the thing? I don't know. Whatever. I'm so bad. Is that Hulk or the Thing?
I have no idea.
I'm so bad. I'm so sorry. Everybody just
Hulk stands. We apologize.
pair me up on Twitter, please. Just
or
read
Venmo
me
at Elafibri.
Destroy all of me, please, because I am so ignorant. Oh, we love it. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's just like, yes, you're totally right. That is probably exactly. Ooh, look at that. Probably exactly why that line is there. And that's, I mean, it felt so misplaced. It felt so out of nowhere and bad and silly. For as iconic as it was, and I mean, obviously, like, in the first one, it's not commenting on anything. It's just a good line in the movie. It's not like throwback to the other one. Like, nope, it's the first one. So we're not doing that, which is why it feels amazing and good, because it's such a good line. Like, bus driver says that, and we are the weirdos, mister. Great. Sick. We stand forever and ever. Amen. Yea, verily. And this one, it was just like the biggest. It's like somebody shooting a basketball from half court, and there's like, you think it's going to go far, and then it just like falls directly to their feet, like directly in front. It didn't fucking land at all. It was like the worst. I hated it. I mean, I love the movie. That moment was bad.
Yeah. I was not a fan of that.
Okay. Also, shout out to Tabby's fucking finger lighter. Her just like fucking flame blast. Like, somebody writes like Tabby's a slut or something on her locker, and she just like,
oh, fuck
like,
yeah.
Go-go gadget, light finger, and just like welds the fucking paint off the locker. And I'm like, this is sick. What a cool, fun addition to the idea of magic, and using like this kind of CG effect to be like, yeah, you can just conjure fire in whatever form to use to whatever. I'm like, yeah, exactly. This is what I want. This is exactly what I want from a witch movie, from a magic movie. Like, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Of course.
And I like that we got to see them having so much more fun with magic together.
Yes. Oh,
like,
yeah.
That made it so great.
This movie also carried one of my favorite tropes in any teen movie that pretty much every single one of them has. It's like right at the like midpoint of Act 2, when they've changed and people don't see like the bad outlier group as like bad and mischievous. Like, people are kind of thinking they're cool now, and they walk through the cafeteria in slow-mo. It's in almost every one of those movies.
Oh, fucking all of them. Yeah.
Obsessed. Where like they're like walking and like looking around. It was in the first craft. It's in this one. They're like looking around at each other. And then there's always a camera cut to one kid. And that kid is always mouthing the word wow. Like, wow. Like in slow motion.
Wait, okay. Does it also baffle you that those like scenes exist? Because I don't think I ever set foot into my high school cafeteria.
I went inside my high school cafeteria to get my lunch. I think
my cafeteria was like, well, I mean, I went in the line, right? And then, okay, like I passed through it. There was like 5 tables, but it was like you were expected to like eat in the quad or do, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. We always ate at our lunch table, which was like outside of the quad. It was like our table.
yeah. No, like, so I'm super surprised that like, all of these high school movies are so obsessed with still like, you know, the cafeteria is where everything happens. And you're like,
yeah,
what are you talking about? Like, nobody uses the cafeteria. Like,
it is a great way, because there is like a very clear walkway. It's always a great place to do a runway. Always a good place to show off a look. Like, if you want to get a little bit of attention, that's why I love it. It's just like perfect. It's like, yeah, strut it out. Like, that's gossip. Go off. Like, get it. Like, this is so sick. I am so on board. It's just such a silly trope. I'm always into it. There's never been one of those where I was like, boo, that was bad. It's always like, I love it. I knew it was coming, and I am so invested. I'm sold. I'll buy it. I'll buy 3. Like, so fun. I love it.
Can we talk about the daddy?
Daddy Duchovny?
Daddy Duchovny. So I'm like, I don't think we need to go super into his character, but I do, because he's the patriarchy. You all listen to the show. Thank you for listening. We love you so much. You know what we think of them. And watch this movie. You'll get it. But yeah, they did something with this character that I really liked, where like, yes, he's the patriarchy, but I like that they had him as like kind of like a figure, like a well-known, well-respected figure that is trying to help men deal with like masculinity, right? In like a positive way. Oh, he hugs his son, right? That's fine.
Yeah.
Like, and his book is called like The Hollowed Masculine and all of that. And go ahead.
No. I was going to say I hate it so much because there are several of these people that I don't know in particular, but like I know that people I know buy their shit and follow them. It's like, yeah, one of them in particular is gay. And so it's like targeted to gay men about like reclaiming your masculinity. And it's like the most fucking garbage. It's like how to be vulnerable, but still be masculine. I'm like, go fuck yourself. Please.
That's
go burn your
gross.
silly book, you absolute toxic trash can. Like, I don't care. I don't care. You're reclaiming masculinity bullshit. It's all fake. You're fucking fake. Throw your shit. Like, it's just the most boring, basic thing. It's like, how do I be gay and like dick, but also want to canoe? Like, oh my God. I'm so tired and I'm so bored. It's the fucking most boring thing in the world. So shout out to literally none of them. I hate all of them. And it's such a gross, boring thing. I also hate it. Okay, this is a tangent. I'm so sorry. I also hate it because I just think that the people who I know who follow those people only do it because they think the guy's hot. And I'm like, you're toxic. You're boring. I'm like, just go to fucking, I don't know. I don't care. So bored. It's so boring. Sorry.
No, for sure. Like, and that's what I wanted to call out because like, I do know I fucking hate that these people, they have their thing and they're like, well, you know, like, it's okay. We're being sensitive. We're talking about feelings, you know, but it's pain, you know, we make breakthroughs through pain and power equals order. And I do this because I love you. And, you know, and I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is not what feeling your feelings means, first of all. And secondly, like, I don't understand why even in feeling feelings and in doing all of this, there has to be like this macho masculine thing about it. No. And it kind of reminded me of, Jamil, where she said that like she called Kim Kardashian a double agent of the patriarchy because she's saying I love all of this stuff. I love doing this. Like, this is who I am. But she's saying that for men and for women to act like that for men. So like by saying and like selling all of the like diet things and all the bullshit, right? But like, so this reminded me of that where like somebody is trying to present themselves as actually I'm super feely and I'm okay and everything is fine. But really what they're doing is just reiterating the norm in a different way. So it makes you feel like you're working on yourself when you're actually not. You know? Yeah,
they're just rebranding the toxic. It's all it is. It's the same.
Yes,
it's the same bullshit. It's this fake. It's a false sense of enlightenment and a false sense of like reclamation of something that's always been there. It's like reframing this because really what it is like shut the fuck up. It's so bad and boring and fake. It's like kissy face bicep. It's like, no, you don't need, but like. You just cry. Like, you don't have to cry with your fucking arms pumped. Like, you don't have to cry while flexing. Right. You don't have to, like, you can dance and move your hips. They're not mutually exclusive. Like, you can do both. Like, being masculine doesn't mean being rigid. I know. You know what? It does. Being masculine means being rigid and being unable and unflexible of change or nuance or perspective or anything. It's toxic. It's fucking gross. It's a mess. And it is such a, like, I just hate it. It made me so mad, if you can't tell, in this movie, just that whole concept, because it is having a resurgence in this way where it's like, how can I be masculine even though masculinity is bad, but I want to still hate women? And they're like, we can sell you this book. And you're like, it's so boring. Right. How can I hate women without hating women? Like, Okay, great. Cool.
Wait,
we love it. So fun.
And that's why I like that they made his, like, he could have been the villain just by being, like, shitty to the mom and still calling her little birdie and trying to, like, assert his power over her and dominance, right? But, like, what they decided to do was to make that sort of a character villainous in this way that is, there is no doubt that he is a bad person. And I love that they didn't give him an inch, especially right now with the current administration, with all of the stuff that's happening. Like, it was just so good. Like I was talking about in the last segment, where I honestly have no fucking notes for Lily, because she was just boring and bland. But I liked that I could project myself onto her, you know, so when she is beating the shit out of this asshole patriarchal dude that's like telling her shit like, power is order and only belongs to those who understand it. Women are not in your image. We are your rulers and kings. Women with power are too weak not to use it. And all this other stuff. I'm just like, fucking cool. Let's do this. Like, so that was super, 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 super satisfying for me in this election week that we have here. So I was very happy 100%. To watch that.
Same. I mean, this is a good movie. There are so many good elements.
It's a good movie.
Like, I was hoping to enjoy it. I was hoping it would be good. I was surprised at how good it was. Also, how much was in it, how clear, concise, and intentional each one of those things were. And by things, I mean things or whatever.
A lot.
Like, it said a lot, and it did a lot, and it did a lot well. I mean, some of it was whatever. But again, such minor moments in an otherwise very, very good and fun and cool film. It was cool. It was like a cool movie.
The only people that don't like this movie are people that love patriarchy.
Yeah. The guys are like, why was that guy bad? I liked everything he said. And you're like, yeah, go buy his book.
That tracks.
JK, don't buy his book. Yeah, I really like this movie.
It was a win.
It did feel like a win. Yeah, it was a win. We watched The Craft and The Craft Legacy. We watched both of these. We love it.
Yeah. So what did you think of the first one, of the original Craft? Who was it for? It
was for mall goths, I think.
Yeah.
I think just like straight up mall goths. Not in like a
Are you calling me out?
No. I mean, kind of. It was also me too.
Teenage Jessica?
Yes, it was for mall goths at large, I think. It was like the right movie. It was like kind of scary, kind of fun, self-righteous in that way of like validating that kind of like, nobody gets me and people hate me, whatever. I'm a witch and they don't know it, and they don't know it's coming to them. Like that outsider, bullied, beleaguered, this subset, this group of misfits, essentially. I'm like, yeah, it's for them. And in a lot of cities, that culminated or cultivated itself into mall goth culture. Shout out Spencer's Gifts. JK, shout out Hot Topic. Well, pre-Hot Topic. Okay, real question. Before Hot Topics, where were mall goths getting their stuff? Was it
thrift stores?
Anchor Blue? Okay, hear me out.
Wait, no, that was Miller's Outpost before. So Miller's Outpost became Anchor Blue.
Was it Miller's Outpost?
I only know this because my mom had a friend that worked at Miller's Outpost, which became Anchor Blue, and I only got clothes 2 times a year. Or my mom bought me clothes 2 times a year, and it was when there was a family and friend discount, so it was like 40% off, and I got a bunch of clothes that I did not want.
Hell yeah! Shout out Miller's Outpost, Anchor Blue. I love that. Wait, okay, so were the clothes gothy or no?
No.
Oh
no.
Okay, see. I'm only saying that because I do remember that my brother wanted the spiky bracelet, the
stud
leather
bracelet?
What is it called?
Yeah,
the spiky.
It's a stud bracelet.
Stud bracelet. He wanted one of those They sold it at Anchor Blue for some reason. I remember thinking that was strange, but I was like, is this place secretly goth?
Well, it's when like Avril Lavigne and stuff like that came out, right? So
you know
then
what?
It was like,
that's exactly it.
Cool. So this is like, so we're going to sell some of these too.
Abercrombie started selling black polos, and you're like, oh my God, they're going goth. Stop the paper, stop the presses. Somebody.
Oh my God.
American Eagle's goth now. Somebody tell somebody. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yes. So that's who it was for. Cool. Who did you think it was for?
I'm going to say that it was for me. And I wish that I had seen this when I was in high school, because then it would have been like, yeah, fuck all of these people. I hate all of these people. Even more, because I was definitely that person. But like this is for teenage Jessica. I
love it.
Watch this, teenage Jessica. I don't know why I said that, because clearly
Yeah.
I can't go back in time. But if I could go back in time, y'all, I would save us all. Okay.
If I could turn back time.
If I could find a way.
Yes.
Did you like it?
Oh, I loved it. I think The Craft is a fantastic movie. It's so fun. It's kind of scary. Silly at times. It has a lot of elements that I really enjoy. It has all of the cadence of the so typical teen 90s movie. Like, it has so many good elements that I love. And also Fairuza Balk is just absolute slut. Like, so good. You don't even exist to me. I'm just, yes. Oh my God. I love it. Did you love it?
I super love this. Even though, like, clearly there are issues that I had with this and some of the representation, I love this movie. Like, it was just so fun. I will be critical as hell about this movie and other movies like it, but I still fucking love to see stories that are centered around women and powerful women and women that are able to kick fucking ass. Like, I love.
Same.
I don't care if it's cheesy. I don't care whatever, because like, this is the kind of shit that, I love.
This is what dreams are made of. Hey now. Yes. Could not agree with you more.
I think so too. What about the new one? Was this new, interesting, or the same? Progressive, regressive? How has it evolved with today's ideals?
It's new and interesting and progressive, and it has evolved with today's ideals in a way that is both seamless, organic, kind, intentional, and big capital C consensual in all of its perfect and cool ways.
Yay.
The remake, I don't know. I don't want to like get too ahead of myself. Oh my God, me and all of myself, because I contain multitudes.
Oh my goodness.
Hi, shout out. But I think that this sequel is probably the best or most well done, just as far as if we're looking at it from a sense of like, how did they progress with today's ideals? Was it new and interesting? Was it a well-told story? Like, it did all of those things in a really, really good way, I think.
Yeah, I think the exact same thing. I think it was new and interesting, and the same enough to be like, okay, this is cyclical, this is this, right? Like, to know where the beats are going to be. But the way that it chose to talk about those or present those beats, and the way that it decided, like, the things it decided to take on in both big ways and in small ways, and give these characters such nuance without having it be their token trait. Because movies that try to be like this progressive and everything often like will feel very patronizing or very disingenuous. And so I think that I loved what they did, and the writing was fucking wonderful. And I'm going to look up who wrote this movie, and I want to see what else they've written, because
so
go ahead.
I looked it up. This is their first feature, I believe, and they also directed it. She wrote and directed this movie.
Fucking go off.
Let me look her up, because I remember being like, oh, what? That's fucking sick. Zoe Lister-Jones was the writer and director of Craft Legacy.
I'm so on board. I want another sequel. I want all of the things.
Yeah, she's been in a ton of TV and movies as an actor, and this is her first, it looks like, credited first, not only writing credit, but directing credit. Both.
Fucking go off. We love you.
Yeah.
We stan.
Yeah, she's great.
Great job. Also, fuck anybody that did not like this movie. This was a damn good movie.
Also, with such a nostalgic property, like, for this to be her first run, not only writing and directing, and for it to be the remake sequel of an already iconic property, she nailed it. She nailed it in every way, and it's so cool and impressive.
I'm hoping they get a sequel, and I'm also hoping that the sequel is then, like, because I feel like she has my trust after this movie. I feel like the next movie will obviously have Nancy Moore as a central character in it. But I would love to see the way that she tackles the problematic aspects and the things that we talked about with the first film, and what she chooses to do with that. You know,
Same.
Because I feel like, especially after, seeing what she's done for this franchise, and like she could absolutely tackle that. And I have 1,000% faith in her for doing that. She's great. Who is it for, Eric?
It's for the queerdos, mister. I don't know. That would have been a funnier bit. I want to just say it. Yeah. It's for, oh my God. I hate that I said that. It's so silly. Yes, that's who it's for. Who do you think it was for?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I could get much better than that. That was very good. I want to say it was for young women. It was for everybody. Like every young person that wants to see themselves represented and wants to feel like good guys will win in the end. Yeah.
Cool. I love it. I'm on board.
I love this so much. Did you like it?
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was so well done and fun, and it's just a good movie. Really, go watch it. Also, real quick shout out to us for doing 2 brand new movies in a row.
Oh shit! Yeah, we're so
This
tight.
movie also just came out, so look at us being on the cusp of I don't know, real cinematic journalism and or on the pulse of pop culture at large. Maybe us?
Yeah.
Excuse me? Yeah. So we're great. The movie was great too. Did you love it?
I loved it. I super, super loved it. I stand this movie. Please go watch it and feel good about yourself. And all of the reviews that are like 50%, that's bullshit. This is a very good movie. So
yeah, those are fake.
Yeah, those are all fake. People just hate fun and good things and things that make them think and that show them like, hey, look, you can be intentional and conscious and kind and still be funny and scary and have a bad guy and have conflict and all of that. Like, you can do all of that. So I feel like she just slam dunked on Hollywood and was like, yo, what's up? So,
yeah, no, 100%.
Anyways, I think that's it. Is that it today?
I think that's it. I think we got there.
Man, we did it. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for listening. You can write into us at NOTstalgiapodcast@gmail.com. Special thanks to Danny Barkley for editing our podcast. And you can find us on Instagram and Twitter, but we don't post, but just follow us in case we do. It's fine.
Yes.
Like, subscribe, give us a review. Tell us you love us because we love attention and we love knowing that we are appreciated.
Straight up. That is true and factual in every way.
What's the other? Ring that bell. No, I don't know.
Ring it. Subscribe. Hit us up. Yeah. No, truly. Please leave us 5-star reviews on our Apple Podcasts. If you're doing it, please give us reviews and compliments and shower us in stars, because obviously we're stars, but the world needs to know that we're stars. So give us more stars so we can be discovered as stars. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we love you so much. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Jess. And
remember, stay cute.
And stay critical. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. 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 Bye.